Hello, my name is Jeremy Fox. This is my week 4 project video review for MDF1 term 1210. What did we do for our project? We had to parse a web service response into a table view showing some of the items from the response in the table view, and then when you clicked on the cell, it took you to the details page where we showed the whole individual response for each item individually in a scrollable text view. And I added a couple things on there just to show that it was the same response, and it's like the same image from the cell. And then on this whole thing is supposed to be in a tabbed application, and that was the first tab. The second tab is just a text view showing the entire response that we got back from the web service call. So real quick, we'll run through this. We got the app delegate creating an instance of my main view controller and the response controller, and we have our navigation controller so we can push new view controllers on the stack from for our details view. Creating the tab bar. I have a custom request object that I'm initializing here with a delegate of the main view controller, and then because the request had to be asynchronous, I'm using the method perform selector in background, and I'm giving it the selector to call off of the request object, and I'm passing it the request string, which is this whole guy right here. That's the web service call I'm calling. It's itunes.apple.com search. Search term is Steven Spielberg, and I'm just narrowing it down by all movies that he was a producer of. After that, what's going to happen is this, it will show the main view controller, but in the background it will be performing a request for URL, which is what happens here. So we create a response object, which is a custom object that I have, which just holds the individual response data. So we have the response, we get the data back, which is of course NS mutable data, and then we check it as long as we actually got something. We parse it out, and as long as that worked and we parse it out and we have a valid object, I'm setting some of the the properties on the response object to things that we've got back from our response, so I can just easily grab them later. And then I'm calling my delegate method request returned response, and I pass it the response, and it is on the main view controller right here. And then as soon as this comes back, it immediately calls perform selector on main thread, because we can't update the UI unless we're on the main thread, of course. And then so we call the method receive response, and we pass that object along. That's where the response that is. So right here, we receive the response. We set our local movies property array, tell the table view to reload because now we have a valid array of objects. We telling our response view controller, hey, it's time to update your view because we have a response for you to display. And then we're just showing the animating in the table view. That's pretty much it. And then we have all the generic UI table view data source and delegate methods, which we've gone over 100 times. It's self for row index path, height for row, did select row, and we're just creating these individual objects to use information off of them. So like for example, when we click on a row, we grab that movie, that movie object, create the detail view, set the movie to the current movie on the detail view, and push it on the stack. So here's our detail view, and then right here, as long as we have a valid movie, we just go ahead and set up some info on the view. That's it. Here's our request, my custom request object. Have a protocol delegate method, so that's that request return response. JF request is the name. We have an init with delegate, and perform request for URL method. that we already saw. Then we have the response, which is just an object to hold some of the response information, and as you'll see, there's nothing in the implementation file. The main view controller, we just looked at that. There's the nib. Looks kind of weird right now, but you'll understand it when it comes up. Detail view, we just looked at that as well. There's the kind of the temp detail view look. And then our response view controller, which is nothing except for just a big text view, and that'll make sense when it comes up. So we'll go ahead and run it. Splash screen, and there you saw the little spinner activity indicator with it saying loading movies, and it will sit on that as long as it takes for the response to come back, and then and that is completely asynchronous. So for example, it's probably going to be pretty fast, but if I start the app and I click on the second tab, you can see, I mean, it's really, really fast, but if you slow your network down, or if you have a slow network, that it will say loading movies, and it will just continue to say it actually on both tabs, as you can tap back and forth while it's saying it, and then it will all of a sudden load once you get a response. And so here's the full response tab, which as you can see is pretty big. It just scrolls and scrolls and scrolls. That's the whole response. And then we have the Spielberg Films tab, which is just a table view of all the films that we got back, and we have a little placeholder thumbnail. As you see, the images are loading asynchronously as well, and they're popping in as I scroll. And there they are, all the movies. And then you click on one, it takes you to details view, shows you that same kind of view like I was saying, just so you know which one you're currently looking at. A little easier anyways. And then of course the individual response for just this movie. And then same thing for any of the other movies. And that is it in all its glory. What do I think I could have done better? Really not a whole lot. I think I did pretty well. I actually took a little time and actually made the thumbnails actually kind of look cool with this neat little backdrop and border and stuff on them. And this wasn't even a requirement to have this info. It was just supposed to be the individual response text view on the detail. So I kind of went a little above on some of the UI stuff. So I think it went great. And that is it. So thank you for watching.